Let's break down the cheek squish on this Live2d model. The squish is controlled by a mouth shrug and a jaw open, with a little bit of physics as well. Mouth shrug and jaw open is a blend shape on the head XY deformer. The edges are deformed a little bit more to add that extra cheek squish when the head is off to the side. Lastly, there's a little bit of physics on blend shapes. And that's it.
This Vtuber is an artist and they actually drew their own model. So as one of the features, they requested a drawing tablet with tracking. The toggle has two modes, arm up and drawing, which enables mouse tracking. This is activated with blend shapes. When working on arm toggles, it's important to think about what outfits there might be, as rigging for compatibility will really help you in the future. For this model, both the arm and the sleeve is in one big deformer for the XY movement, with each having smaller deformers for more detailed movement, like body XY and physics. Here's a little test recording of the tablet in use. The tablet itself is just floating, and it follows the body with some physics-linked movement. The rigging wasn't too difficult, although just a little word of precaution is to not have too much foreshortening on the wrist and elbow, otherwise the rigging can get a little bit hard there. Let's check out some Live2d model head angles. The head angles are rigged on an X and Y parameter, with a small amount of Z movement on the angle corners. These blend shapes are used to correct the in-betweens on the angles. Using the weight graph, they are activated at 25 and 45. This is what the face warp deformer looks like. This is what the primary eye warp deformer looks like, and its sub-warp deformers. This nose angle deformer controls its direction, so mouth shrug will make a move in a diagonal direction. These mouth-related movements are placed on blend shapes. This is some experimental Vtuber hair physics. It's a combination of both manually rigged deformation and physics simulations. I was really happy with the result of this method. At the top of the hierarchy, there is an angle deformer. Below that manages Y1 physics and hair ripple physics. Below this, there is a stack of deformers for rotational physics, like you can see. They go up to pendulum 4, and some have a few different things animated on them. This one, for example, has a twist physics, and also has fine XY detail physics on it. All these deformations are manually rigged, and then assigned to physics simulations. This is what it looks like in action. For the physics, I tested something a little bit different. It has the normal inputs, but it only outputs to one parameter. This parameter is blank, and is input into the actual hair physics. I liked the result as it allowed me to combine both a slower physics and faster bouncy physics. Hair physics such as ripple and turn also use this parameter. For the hair under the headphones, they're just done on blend shapes, so they can just be disabled with blend shape weights when the headphones are on. Let's take a longer look at the hair physics in action. This is a little Live2d familiar for a Vtuber. While some familiars are made separately, this one is a part of the model so they can interact. This is what the head angles look like. They're on a physics group so they can be controlled by both head and mouse inputs. The ears are in front of the head, but are hidden with this mask when it looks up. Here's a little bit of squish physics, and here's the wing rigging. They are under a rotation deformer, and the speed is controlled with blend shapes. The mouth has a simple open and form, which the artist kindly provided some references for. And that's it. The next video on this familiar will be interaction with the model. This Vtuber familiar can land on the model. Once toggled, it will follow the head movements and the head angle directions. It also follows the model's facial tracking. Look at them go! There's also a second landing position. They can sit on the drawing tablet. For this technique, I used a duplicate of the main model's warp deformers and then locked them using parameters. I didn't use glue for this setup, although that could be another way of doing it. This parameter moves the model into position, and a second one is used to enable or disable the following movement. Headphones can be tricky to rig in Live2d. Let's do a little breakdown. For art separation, the artist separated the outer housing, the middle line, and the ear pad. Each of these had a separate base, texture, and line art. They were then deformed with a pre-shaped warp deformer. Keyforms included physics and X and Y body angles.
I find deforming things like headphones a little bit more tricky, just because they're a geometric solid object, so it's pretty easy to notice when they go out of shape. Thankfully the angles weren't too extreme on these headphones, as I didn't need to rig the inside of the earpads. Lastly, the hair is also rigged to follow the headphones. This is just done on blend shapes, so they can be disabled and enabled with blend weights. And that's it. Let's take a look at this Vtuber's jacket and how it was rigged. This is what the physics look like when they move up and down. The collar is separated into 4 main sections. It has its own X and Y angles and its own physics. The arms have a separate texture to allow for a bit more depth, and they also have angles and physics too. The bottom of the jacket moves a little bit less, just to account for that elastic band. Toggle is on a blend shape, and this is what the separate texture looks like. It just adds that little extra depth. There is a white texture and a spot texture masked to a base section. The artist also did similar cutting for the torso, which was really nice to work with. The collar has its own hierarchy for X, Y, and physics. It also has similar texture separation. The Y angles were a little bit tricky on this one. Lastly, a little bit of toggle physics was added when the jacket is turned on. When applying for my Vtuber commissions, I ask each client what kind of movement they would like. This client answered cute and lively, so here's a little showcase of the movement I rigged. Firstly, the range of movement isn't too crazy, as I find you can get a bit more cuteness from the physics tuning, rather than pushing the angles to the extreme. So physics augmented movements like head Y, body Y, Z's, all have less flowy movement and more bouncy movement. Same goes for things like hair physics and cloth physics. A little bit more bounce, a little quicker movement, and a bit less flowy. And that's about it. Here's a little video showing the movement at a distance. Thanks for watching. If you want to look bonita, you gotta move bonita. To get the most out of a Vtuber model, the expressiveness doesn't just come from good rigging. Learning how to puppet and move is really important as well. This is a model I made for the Vtuber Kithera, and they're tuned for more bouncy and cute movement, so moving in a similar way really brings out that rigging. Think animation principles, but applying that to your own mocapped movement. Really got to embody that Jim Carrey facial control. For example, exaggerated head nods, expressive eyebrow movement, and over-accentuated mouth movements. The puppeting on every model is a little bit unique. For example, the ears on this model is controlled by facial expressions, so brows, mouth X, and head angles can control them. Same goes for the tail, it wags faster when you smile, so getting used to that really helps the expressiveness. If you practice moving like this, it'll become muscle memory over time. This Vtuber's tail wags when they smile. Let's check out how it works. By default, it has a slower speed, and will slowly arc up when they smile more. To add the smooth movement, it is passed through a physics group. In the editor, this is what it looks like when the tail up parameter is moved. It gets passed through one physics group for delay, and a second one for the tail speed. Tail speed makes the tail wag faster, and this is linked up to mouth form in the tracking software. I also added a speed 3 just for a bit of a turbo mode. These wings also have a similar setup. The tail is rigged using skinning with some correction on the meshes. The tail rotations are copied to 3 sets of blend shapes and then limited with blend weights to switch between the speed versions. Lastly, each speed is linked to an idle animation. Let's check out a more advanced expression for this Vtuber model. This is cat mode, and they have a little reactive bounce when they go into this mode, as well as an eye and face switch. The bounce uses toggle and invert physics to make the model move up and then down, that is then input into things like ears and body movement. The eye switch is just done on blend shapes for efficiency. And this is what the expression looks like in action. You can see that little bounce when it transitions into the cat mode, as well as the ears down. These eyes actually utilize the existing rigging, so it uses the same eye form deformers and iris deformers. Here's some expressions this Vtuber can make. This one's a little less of a breakdown and more just a showcase. Expressions are generally pretty easy to rig, although things like crying can be a little bit more tricky. The software used to run the model is called VTube Studio, and it can manage these different facial expressions. Most of these are toggled with a shortcut, although some can be made to activate automatically, like this toggle where the hair goes up when they're surprised. Some expressions don't need new assets to be created. This surprised one just uses the tears and different mouth shapes. And this one modifies the pupils' size and colour. And that's most of the expressions on this model. To break down some parts, this hair piece is activated with toggle physics and has some physics with blend weights. The tears use 3 pieces with glue, one for the eye, cheek, and drip. This is what the tear deformer looks like. That's all for now. This is a Live2d model with VBridger mouth tracking. VBridger is an add-on software which allows you to track extra details, focusing on mouth movements. Keep in mind, the model needs specific rigging to allow these extra features, and an iPhone with Face ID for the best tracking. This is what the mouth open and forms look like. They have happy, sad, and O to E range. Jaw movement is also rigged separately. Mouth shrug tracks the mouth moving up, and mouth X controls the mouth side to side. Lip press is great for smiling, E and B mouth forms. This sad or surprised mouth form variation is controlled with a blend shape. Weights are then used to control it when the mouth is closed. This model also has a tongue out, although it can get a little complex for VBridger, so I won't be going into depth in this video. Blip. And that's it. Thanks for watching.